morning, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Marcus here. I want to send a shout out to my brother Booker T. He usually wears this hat, this kind of hat, and I put it on and I looked in the mirror and I thought I looked a little bit like him. So I decided to say, "What's up, bro?" Today, ladies and gentlemen, a spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people, I want to share a message with you that is very short, but it has within the context three subtopics. One would be money, the root of all evil. We've heard that many times before, I'm sure. And the other subtopic is there are devils in the world. And to end, we want to say the simple truth. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that we live in a world. It doesn't matter whether we are in the north, central, or southern. We live in a world where people live different ways. Their objective is to basically come out the same. And each place is short of what is required to represent the best that can be. And it continues to be this way, and it depreciates and gets worse as time goes on because of the teachings that we have in regards to the situation. It allows, and not only allows, it prepares for the degradation. And so whether we live in the north, the central, or the south, we're all of the same stuff. And I set that up to try to give you a movement of what this is about. Money, you have heard, is the root of all evil. But every root has a seed. The seed of the root of this evil is man and his ways of the anti-God. A parent's desire is to feed, to clothe, to shelter, to educate, to provide health care for every child until that child matures and learns to choose and provide for themselves as a way of life befitting its dreams, aspirations, and understanding that all things benefit the living, the family. That's a parent. Every parent knows this is true. Every parent feels the same way, even when they perhaps are not prepared to go forward in such a way. But the seed of money is represented as a child that tries to become a parent before time. And this is one that is not satisfied. Such a child is not qualified to care for children, let alone adults. God says, honor your parents, that your life may be, some say long, I say wonderful. Wonderful in that you respect your parents by respecting one another, who happens to be your providers, your protectors, and you know it. But the child parent says no to that. To hell with it. Rather than depend on one another, depend on a new God. A new God. And it hides. But the money that comes with it, the money that is the tool to draw you to the new God, which is supposed to do what the true God does. To feed, to clothe, to shelter, to educate, to provide health care. But the provisions for this type of promise of life comes from stealing. It comes from lying. It comes from cheating. It comes from swindling. It comes from killing. It comes from straight up crime and violence. It comes from terrorism that leads to war. But the nations of the world, they strive on such. But the true parent has been calling and waiting for the return of the children. But most have accepted money as a better God, especially since they've learned to hate and despise one another. But the time has come, my friends, my sisters, my brothers, when the truth finally reaches some. They find themselves in the fiery furnace. They find themselves in the lion's den, for which there is only one escape: death to the ways of money, and to the place where money replaces God. See, only, and remember this, only the mature can take this stand. The world remains the same because only the blind lives here. The living forces evil to kill and free them from this hell. I know many of you cannot, based upon your teachings your whole life, the teachings that continues this hell we're living in, can't accept what I'm saying now. But the truth must be at least spoken and lived. I'm speaking it to you because it has been spoken to me. And Father, my best of my ability and the ability that is me, I'll walk that way. But I got to remind you that there are devils in the world. There are a group of people in the world, and remember this again, that are devils. They come in all colors. They come in every gender. And I know the difference between the two. You see, I have become a man, a free man. As such, I choose not to live amongst devils, where you have to become a devil to survive, to experience any kind of decent life. Or if not a devil, just suffer amongst the devils until some mystical figure comes out of the sky and free you. A good night's sleep, toast and eggs, a steak for breakfast, a glass of wine, a chicken dinner, a little sex at bedtime, sleep, and another day of hell is not enough for a free man. Because here, lying, cheating, stealing, crime and violence, terrorism and war. No, I choose to allow, to permit the devil to kill me. And I go meet this mystical figure that they're talking about. I'll go meet it in the sky. What is being said here, ladies and gentlemen, is to share with you the confusion that goes on in the world and why, in most instances, it does. But the simple truth is this: there is a lie and there is truth. No in between. There's right and there's wrong. no in between. There's good and there's bad, no in between. There is love and there is hate, no in between. There is male and there is female, no in between. There's spirit and there's material, no in between. There's heaven and there's hell, no in between. Heaven and hell, no in between. You're either in one or the other, no in between. The Garden of Eden represents the spirit. The Garden of Eden represents heaven. The earth represents hell. For when Adam and Eve were kicked out of the spirit, they were living in the material. And in order to return to the spirit, you must be born again. And what does that mean? That means death to whatever you are. So if you're material now, and we are, we must be born again. Back to the spirit. And how do you get out of hell? How did you get out of heaven? You violated the rules. So how do you get out of hell? By violating the rules. That's wonderful to me sometimes, ladies and gentlemen. To live in the material, you must be, you got to be guided by the material. And that will keep you in hell. And you cannot go to spirit as we have discussed it here unless you know what's going on. And all people who come into this world are taught, conditioned to accept what it is and even to promote it. But the powers that be are undermining everything because their intention is different. That is just propped up for you. Under there, they are trying to make themselves God. And you're in the midst. So the true God finds someone amongst you, reveals God to them, to eliminate any doubt, and to bring back to those of you who have not seen God a measure of God. What does that mean? That means that you who have been blessed to see the burning bush that would not burn up, and I'm not talking about a bush, I'm talking about something that happened in your life, that you yourself have determined that it could only happen because of God. And that gives you the authority to come back to a world that has never experienced that, to live before them with a mission, to let the light of God, that God that exposed themselves to that one, can be seen and recognized. This is why Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden. This is why Jesus, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, to name a few, were kicked out of the material. Now, many of you are smart and you're probably thinking that I have just said that you got to die for doing good to get back to heaven. And you're wondering, how in the world could that be true? When all of these wonderful people, your mothers and your fathers and your kin people and your bosses have died, and we have put them in heaven. And now to hear a message like what I'm saying says that they're not in heaven. I want you to know that when you know the truth, you can tell the truth. It'll hurt those who don't know the truth, But everyone who is searching for the truth will catch on to it. Here's what is happening in a sense, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can understand, is that we are here. When we came here because we didn't deserve to be in another place. And everything that we basically do here, when we learn from the womb to the tomb, is the same stuff that got us here. That's what the first ones have been teaching us all along the way. But there have been messages that have been given and shared, and some to a degree accepted. That's what keeps a little bit of decency in these places of the world. Just a little bit of decency in these places of the world. But that decency is not enough. It's not enough for you to claim Holy Ghost. Because the world keeps going on down